Good morning, evening, or night, everybody. I'm Jext, and in this video, I'm going to be going over the history of Splatoon test fires and demos, and then using my godlike historical analysis to predict when exactly the Splatoon 3 test fire will be. And before this video even starts, there are probably going to be some of you who are questioning, is Splatoon 3 even going to get a test fire, Jext? And I would say to you, yes, of course it's going to get a test fire. It allows the developers to see if this build of the game can handle a large amount of players and it tests the online infrastructure. It allows people who are sort of on the fence about buying the game a chance to play it before they buy it. It also creates a small semblance of buzz about the game even before its release. You have people that are hyped for it, people that are playing it. That means more people are going to be streaming it. There's going to be more eyes on it. The more eyes, the more potential buyers. And also gives the devs a chance to get some very, very early feedback on whether some kits might change right before the game comes out, and maybe if some things are stronger than others, if there are glitches or exploits that are found during the test fire that they can patch out right before the game launches. But in this video, we're just going to go ahead with the assumption that yes, they are going to have a test fire for Splatoon 3. Now, jumping into the history. The first test fire for Splatoon was called the Splatoon Global Test Fire, and it was the first public demo released outside of the E3 2014 demo. Now, this test fire allowed players to customize their Inkling and enter a tutorial area where they could pop balloons and sort of get accustomed to the game's controls. Basically like the introduction of the actual full game. From there, players could enter online matches of Turf War and use 4 weapons: the Splattershot Junior, the Splattershot, the Splat Roller, and the Splat Charger. And they could only play on 2 maps, Salt Spray Rig and Walleye Warehouse, up to 1 hour. The global test fire ran on May 8th, 2015 at 11 p.m. and then again at 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. on May 9th, 2015. All times in this video are converted to Eastern Standard Time just for the sake of my own convenience, so keep that in mind going forward. However, due to some connection issues that plagued players during these 3 one-hour time slots on the 8th and the 9th, another 1-hour time slot was held on May 23rd, 2015 at 8 p.m. Splatoon 1 then subsequently launched on May 28th in Japan, the 29th in North America and Europe, and the 30th in Australia and Oceania in 2015. Now, Splatoon 1 did have another test fire after the game launched as well, on August 21st through August 23rd at 8 p.m. for 2 hours each instead of just 1, also in 2015. This version was essentially the same. It was slightly smaller in file size and had a different demo icon for the Wii U menu, but other than that, it was exactly the same as the first. Now, the original test fire in May did have some quirks to it, namely that players could pre-purchase the full game at various points during the demo itself. Now, players who pre-purchased the full game were awarded special gear to use for the remainder of the test fire. The gear was just for cosmetics, of course, having the same exact abilities as the regular gear that everybody else had access to, and this gear didn't carry over into the full version of the game, which is kind of a bummer. But the players who pre-purchased the game were given the studio headphones with ink recovery up, an unnamed shirt that kind of resembles the white tee in the zinc layered long sleeve with sort of like a team-colored squid sticker on it that had quick respawn, and the red high horses with special saver. Now, also during the Splatoon Global Test Fire, the real-life members of the Squid Research Lab participated in some battles, and they appeared in-game as Inklings with their own special research gear. This gear was also only just for cosmetics, but their gear featured a set of dark sunglasses, a lab coat, and a pair of black dress shoes with white socks. Now, even though this gear was just for cosmetics, it must have been so cool to be able to know that you were playing against somebody that worked on the game. I really hope this comes back and that they do this for the Splatoon 3 test fire or just demos in general for the game going forward. Now, the test fire included the option to view a manual as well, which was notable on all Wii U games. If you hit the home button, you could then view the manual for the game. But during the test fire, if you viewed the manual, it was actually the manual for the entire full version of the game. Not really a huge big deal, but kind of insane that the entire manual is just right there for everybody. Now, a fun little reference to having this cosmetic gear available for pre-purchase was actually referenced in Octo Expansion's DLC in Splatoon 2. Players who pre-purchased the Octo Expansion DLC for Splatoon 2 got the Studio Octo phones and the Octo Layered Long Sleeve, which resemble the gear that players got for pre-purchasing Splatoon in the first global Testfire. Kind of a neat little throwback. Now, other than the August Testfire, no other events like this would be held until the Splatoon 2 Global Testfire on the 24th through the 26th of March 2017, also for 1-hour time slots each. Like its predecessor, it allowed players to customize their Inkling, but this time it included the customization features present in Splatoon 2, namely the ability to choose a different hairstyle. And when you chose a hairstyle, it also had a preset outfit attached to it. These were different from the promotional imagery, however. Now, during the Splatoon 2 Global Testfire, players were also able to play Turf War just like the first one, but in this, they were allowed to use the Splat Dualies, Splattershot, Splat Roller, or the Splat Charger. Playable stages in this Testfire included the Reef and Muscle Forge Fitness. All the headgear had Ink Recovery Up, all of the clothing had Quick Respawn, and all of the shoes had Special Saver. Also notable was that all 8 hairstyles in the final release of the game were shown in this Testfire. Now, this Testfire itself was split up over 3 days, unlike its predecessors, taking place at 3 p.m. and 11 p.m. on March 24th, 7 a.m., 3 p.m., and 11 p.m. on March 25th, and 7 a.m. on March 26th. This Testfire had a unique quirk as well, mainly that unlike the Splatoon 1 Global Testfire, where all 4 weapons had the same kit in the demo that they had in the full game, only 2 of the weapons in this Testfire had matching combinations to their kits in the full game, the Splat Charger and the Splat Roller. As you can see in this Japanese promotional image, the Splat Dualies in the demo actually have the same kit that ended up being on the N-Parry Splat Dualies, while the Splattershot ended up having the same kit that the Splat Dualies themselves would have. Instead of having a Burst Bomb and Splashdown like it does in the full game, it has a Burst Bomb and Antenna Missiles. Now, after this Testfire, another different kind of Testfire was held closer to Splatoon 2's release date. Called the Splatoon 2 Splatfest World Premiere, this event took place on July 15th, starting at 5 p.m. for Japan and starting at 6 p.m. for North America and Europe. Japan competed in their own Splatfest, Rock vs. Pop, while the rest of the world got the theme of Cake vs. Ice Cream. This Splatfest did not last for 1 or 2 hours, but 4 hours, and it was the first Splatfest for the game, even though the game wasn't even out yet. A sort of a bonus tidbit is that because this Splatfest took place before the game came out, it does not show up in your Splatnet 2 Splatfest records. Now, in terms of gameplay, it was the exact same as the previous Testfire, except this allowed the player to play the tutorial, explore the plaza, pick a side for the Splatfest, and then compete in matches. This Splatfest only had 2 maps per 2 hours, which differs from the full game, which has 3. The first 2 hours was Starfish Main Stage and Inkblot Art Academy, and then the second 2 hours was Moray Towers and Humpback Pump Track. The 4 weapons were also the same as in the first Testfire. Now, Splatoon 2 also had its own post-full game release Testfire, which I will include since it doesn't really hurt. Now, this wasn't called a Testfire, but it was called the Splatoon 2 Special Demo. This demo differed slightly from the Testfires of the past, however, as it allowed players to play Turf War with other players who own the full game, as well as the ability to play Salmon Run and rank battles. Players who downloaded the demo also received a 7-day free trial for Nintendo Switch Online. This special demo was playable between March 19th and March 25th, 2019 in non-Japanese regions, and between March 26th and April 1st, 2019 in Japan. If a player enjoyed the demo, they could then purchase Splatoon 2 at a discounted price on the eShop during the duration of the demo. This demo was essentially identical to the full game, minus the ability to play any single-player modes like the Hero Mode campaign or accessing the Shoal. Entering these modes or areas prompted the player to purchase the full game from the eShop, but players could also access full game features like the Galleria to purchase clothing and weapons. Progress from the special demo could then be transferred to the full game as well. Splatoon 2 had another unique demo, but this time taking place in 2020, aptly named the Splatoon 2 Special Demo 2020. This demo was literally exactly the same as the special demo from 2019, but in 2020 during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. It ran from 2 p.m. on April 30th to 10 a.m. on May 6, 2020 in North America and Japan, and 6 a.m. on April 30th to 6 p.m. on May 6, 2020 in Europe. It allowed players the exact same opportunities as the previous special demo, including the option to buy the game at a discounted price and a 7-day free trial of Nintendo Switch Online. And that, my Inkling and Octoling friends, is a history of Splatoon testfires and demos that you didn't know you needed. Now on to my godlike big brain analysis. Splatoon 1 had just a single test fire before its release, plus a makeup day for those with connection errors, prior to its release as a full game on May 28th through the 30th for different regions in 2015. The amount of time between the test fire and the release date was just 20 days, 1 day shy of 3 weeks. Splatoon 2 had one test fire and then its Splatfest test fire premiere prior to its release on July 21st, 2017 as a worldwide release. The amount of time between the test fire and the release was 3 months and 27 days, and the difference between the Splatfest world premiere and Splatoon 2's release was just 12 days. So, with all that information, let's look at where we are right now. As of the release of this video, no test fire has been announced, and we are less than 2 months away from the game's release. Nintendo also has a major game release in Xenoblade Chronicles 3 at the end of this month, on July 29th, which was most likely the actual initial release date for Splatoon 3, but was probably swapped to give the development team extra time. So I doubt there will be an announcement in July, since most of Nintendo's marketing strategy will be solely focused on hyping up the release of their big first-party game, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. So the announcement, in my opinion, will most likely happen sometime in August. Now, looking at the history of test fires, all of them take place on a Friday. The special demos started on a Tuesday and Thursday respectively, but all of them were much longer than the test fires, and they allowed you to access more than just turf war. The previous test fires that took place prior to their games' release dates were 20 days, 3 months and 27 days, and 12 days respectively. Now, like I mentioned earlier, we're about 2 months out, so we can sort of toss out that 3-month and 27-day range. So it's most likely that the test fire will be between 12 and 20 days, which is roughly 2 to 3 weeks before the game's launch. So 2 to 3 weeks before the game's launch on a Friday. So here we go. My prediction is that Splatoon 3's test fire will be on August 26th through August 28th, 2022. The game releases on a Friday as well, September 9th, so the math there is pretty easy. This gives Nintendo ample amount of time to implement any early feedback that they get from the test fire for the launch, and players to get a taste, but not have to wait too long before the game drops. I'll even throw in a small bonus prediction for you. I'm going to predict that the test fire will include a pre-purchase bonus that can be transferred to the main game. Splatoon 1 had this, but it couldn't be transferred to the main game. Octo Expansion sort of referenced it, and I think they're going to bring it back for Splatoon 3. Hopefully it has sort of a Splatlands remix on the studio headphones and the layered long sleeve, but we'll have to see. And I think that about wraps it up. And now I turn it over to you. Do you think my prediction is going to be correct? When do you think the test fire will be? Let me know in the comments below. And do not forget to obliterate that like button and demolish subscribe if you want to see more Splatoon content. I'm going to be posting all sorts of guides, walkthroughs, tips, tricks, and gameplay once Splatoon 3 releases, so I hope you will look forward to all of that. And I hope to see you in the Splatlands on August 26th. As always, I'm Jext. Have a good one.